What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Skeleton Closet, where we talk celebrity news and hot topics. My name is JT, in case you are new here. Today, we're going to be talking about TheView and the special guest co-host that was on the show today, Condoleezza Rice, and the topics that they talked about. So, let's get right into the video.
I'm going to just run down my shout-outs. The dun-dun.
On today's episode of TheView, Condoleezza Rice joined the ladies as guest co-host. They ignited multiple feuds about January 6th and the teachings of critical race theory in school. The panel kicked things off and put it in high gear when talking about Mitch McConnell and the Republicans' response to January 6th, when he said, "Let bygones be bygones." Now, you all know what January 6th was. It was an act of domestic terrorism on our U.S. Capitol. Now, Madam Secretary does acknowledge that January 6th was wrong. She says it was wrong, full stop. However, it seems to me, and it seems to everybody else, that January 6th continues to be whitewashed by Republicans. And that's because that's the best that they can do. Talking about it doesn't help them. If they talk about it, it lets everybody know that they were wrong for backing Donald Trump and that they should have done something a lot sooner to stop him and his antics. So let's just take a look at this clip about what Condoleezza Rice had to say about January 6th.
Look, first of all, let me be very clear. I said at the time, January 6th was wrong. I called it an assault on law and order and an assault on our democratic processes. So full stop, it was wrong. Law enforcement will determine what happened there, and those who violated the law ought to be punished. I also, on January 6th, for the first time since I was the National Security Advisor on September 11th, I cried that day, right? Because I thought, I study countries that do this. Yes. I didn't think it would happen in my own country, so it was a terrible moment. I will say that that night, when they filed back into the Capitol after it was secured, and they certified that election, I had new faith in our institutions and the people who were protecting them. So we came through that as a country that ultimately upheld the law. Now, I think what Senator McConnell may be referencing is, yes, it's time to move on in a lot of ways. Yeah. I'm one who believes that the American people are now concerned about their what we call kitchen table issues, the price of gasoline, inflation, what's happening to their kids in school. I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I will say that as somebody who was a national security expert, maybe didn't see in quite the same way the rise of China in ways that we're seeing it now. And so we do have a lot of issues. And I hope that what we will do is move on to the next generation of leadership. Because even people like me, I was in Washington a total of 10 years, 2 years with George H.W. Bush, 8 years with George W. Bush. I shouldn't go back. We ought to move on to the next generation, move ahead and deal with the American people's issues.
You wouldn't go back if they asked you?
I have no desire to go back to Washington, D.C. Absolutely zero.
Well, I think it's really politically expedient for Mitch McConnell to say, let's move on, especially when the former twice impeached disgraced president enjoys attacking Mitch McConnell. But the problem is that past will become prologue if we don't find out exactly what happened January 6th.
And we will.
So it's not time right now.
We will find out.
We must find out before moving on.
We will find out. But I'm going to tell you, I live in California, not Washington, D.C. And the American people do have other concerns that we ought to be thinking about and talking about.
Respectfully,
and
Madam Secretary, I think...
let me finish, Sonny, because as I said, I thought this would happen in countries I studied, not countries that I lived in. Our institutions have to be upheld. What happened on January 6th was wrong. I don't know how much more strongly I can say what happened on January 6th was wrong. I also know that as a government and as a country, we've got to be concerned about the things that are making life hard for Americans and hard for American families.
But when you have,
and that's what I'm ready to do.
But when you have 80% of Republicans wanting to see Trump run in 2024,
you know what? I'm a political scientist, all right? And unless I could see the questions that were actually in that poll, unless I could see the assumptions that were actually in that poll, I'm not going to take for granted that that poll is correct.
So Quinnipiac, you don't believe in
no,
those
I
polls.
said I'm a political scientist. I understand polls. And unless I really knew what was in that poll, I just want to repeat, as to what I want to see in my party, I want to see the next generation of leadership step up I want those of us who have been there, done that, to step back. And I want to move on to a better America.
Well, and I think that the future of the Republican Party needs to get back to what just separated conservative ideas. Because
Absolutely.
I do think people are concerned with jobs. They're concerned with the economy. We have different ideas where I stand on immigration. But those are the things people are talking about right now. And until Republicans get back to issues and not sensational stunts, there's no future.
But
Madam Secretary got comfortable real fast. All right. She didn't waste any time, and she told Sonny, let me finish, because she had some more things to say. But when it comes to January 6th, a lot of Republicans want to whitewash it because it is politically expedient for them to not want to talk about it. And I think it's so interesting how Donald Trump is the person who is responsible for January 6th, and everybody that is in the Republican Party doesn't want to talk about it. Yet Donald Trump is the person who has them in a chokehold. Donald Trump is the person who continuously attacks other Republicans in his own party, yet nobody in his own party wants to attack him and hold him accountable. It makes no sense to me. And I have to agree with Sonny, because if we don't talk about what happened in January 6th, it can happen again. If we don't get down to the bottom of what happened and how it happened, it will happen again. Sometimes history does repeat itself, and we don't want this to repeat itself, and it is worse than the first time. So I think it's only good for Republicans not to want to talk about it. But I think moving on from January 6th and not talking about it or holding Donald Trump accountable isn't going to help them. I think it's only going to hurt them. Because if you continuously allow Donald Trump to hold your party hostage, you're not going to get anywhere. Now, the ladies did talk about Donald Trump being the leader of the Republican Party in 2024. Condoleezza Rice says that she wants to see the questions that were asked in the poll, because sometimes pollsters may ask questions and lead themselves to certain assumptions. I don't think that they went out and asked whether or not Donald Trump should be the Republican candidate in 2024. There possibly were other questions that led them to believe that that's what the people responding to the poll would want. But when you have Republican leaders in the Senate and in the House continuously backing Donald Trump and riding his coattails, it only leads one to believe that most of their constituents and the Republicans in this country want Donald Trump to run for president again in 2024. And if y'all aren't worried about that, you need to be, because Donald Trump in the White House again, I don't think I can handle it. And I might just have to move to Mars. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I'm not staying here. And things seem to get a little testy when Madam Secretary said, I said I'm a political scientist and I understand polls. I don't know if y'all caught that little attitude and that little neck roll, but I did. And she was not having it with Sonny today. And I personally was shocked. I thought that today was going to be, kind of chill. She was going to sit there and answer the questions, but she brought a lot more attitude than I had expected. And if you hadn't been able to tell, Madam Secretary is a Republican. And if you thought that she was going to go on the show and nod her head and agree with everything that the other ladies had to say, boy, were we wrong. Now, during the next segment, she clashed even more with Whoopi and Sonny when they were talking about critical race theory, because she is under the impression that talking about critical race theory might make white children feel inferior or uncomfortable. And personally, it is not my job to make white people feel comfortable. And if talking about race makes you as a white person feel uncomfortable, that might be because you have racial prejudices that you need to address. And if talking about race makes you uncomfortable as a white person, that is not my problem. And she says that she struggles with finding a middle ground between making white people feel guilty for everything that happened in the past and making black people feel disempowered. And what she's trying to say is talking about race can sometimes lead people to believe that their race is a hindrance on them and their progression forward. And I don't think that that is the case, because talking about race allows us to understand what happened in the past so that it doesn't repeat itself. And that is exactly what Whoopi was saying in this segment as well. So talking about race doesn't necessarily mean or try and put someone down. And it especially doesn't tell black people that your race is going to handicap you. When talking about race, I don't think anybody wants white people to feel uncomfortable, But if you feel uncomfortable about talking about race and how systematic racism benefits white people in this country, you're just gonna have to address that. And I don't think talking about race in schools is going to make white children feel bad about being white. I think it's going to allow them to understand what happens in this country today when it comes to systematic racism, when it comes to black and brown people being killed at the hands of law enforcement simply because they are black. Because sometimes white people have this feeling that they are unsafe around black and brown people, and those things need to be addressed. That's why talking about race in this country is so important. So during the segment today, she said, I would like black kids to be completely empowered to know they are beautiful in their blackness, but in order to do that, I don't need to make white kids feel bad for being white. This is a conversation that I think has gone in the wrong direction. Personally, I don't think that it has gone in the wrong direction. I don't think this conversation has gone far enough, because we are still talking about black and brown people being killed at the hands of law enforcement. And until we are able to get to a place where that isn't happening, and until we are able to get to a place where black and brown people aren't seen as more violent, or white people don't feel more uncomfortable around black and brown people, or they don't feel safe around black and brown people, we haven't gotten to the place where we've done the work. I feel like there's a lot more work that needs to be done with racial equity and racial justice in this country. So hopefully in the future we can get to that place. But as of right now, if you just look around, you can tell that we haven't gotten to the place where this conversation has done its job. And she's worried about how we teach history in schools, but there's only one way to talk about race, how we can make our future better for everyone. And talking about race and talking about systematic racism doesn't just help black people, it helps everyone. If you understand how your prejudices and how your privilege affects other people, that makes you a better person, because you can be a better neighbor, you can be a better friend to the people around you, especially the black and brown people that are around you in your workplace and in your community. Personally, I would have expected more from Madam Secretary, as she is someone who grew up in segregated South. She understands how being in different places because of your skin color affects your education, affects your ability to buy a house, affects your access to a lot of different resources. So I would have expected more from her when it comes to this particular topic. There is that old saying that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So when it comes to race in this country, you can expect for a Republican to not want to talk about it, no matter of their race. And personally, I don't understand black Republicans. Maybe someone out there watching can enlighten me on the things that entice black people to the Republican Party. Let me know down in the comment section below, because I would definitely love to read your thoughts on it. And also today's episode of The View. Did you enjoy Condoleezza Rice being on The View today? Do you think that The View producers are seriously considering her being on the show? Even though she does live in California as a professor at Stanford, and the show is being filmed in New York City. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below about all that, January 6th, critical race theory, and more. I definitely love reading you guys' comments and chatting with you guys about it. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button so that I can know how you felt about today's video. As well, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can join us in the closet and become part of the family. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.